kufanele bayethe Nkosi Yezulu uthumolo kufanele ingazimuli kufanele bayethe Nkosi Yezulu bayethe 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 Nkosi Yezulu bayethe bayethe Nkosi Yezulu shekhaya masote
Wayongcwele
bayethe Nkosi Yezulu uthumelo kufanele ingazimuli kufanele bayethe Nkosi Yezulu bayethe 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 Nkosi Yezulu bayethe 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 Nkosi Yezulu uthumelo kufanele sobrande. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Thank you, Father. All right. Good afternoon. It is a Thursday afternoon, and of course, namhlanje ntambama we are thriving in abundance. Igama lami Zodwa Msimang. Kanti bantu masingafika ne-worship nami singa-worship ukuze kuyovalwa. Namhlanje it is my absolute pleasure and joy to welcome you, ladies and gentlemen. Kule ngosi yethu namhlanje siyasenza izinto differently. I've got my beautiful, absolutely gorgeous baby sis here. This is Kanye with me in studio, and of course I've got you and virtually. So we're doing this thing namhlanje siyenzibe hybrid ngoba kufanele sihambe nezikhathi dadewethu angikubingelele.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for making time to join us namhlanje. As you guys would have seen on our advert, we psychologists sifundiswa impela. Ngibuyele lapho ngibingelele ngwekazi.
Ngiyabingelela kakhulu ngibingelele nakuSisikhanyi ngiyabingelela nakubona bonke ababukele right now. Thank you for having me.
Waphuthela kumnandi la e-studio but siyajabula ukuba nawe namhlanje ntambama. Mhlawumbe ke ngiqale nje just briefly nginikeze opportunity ukuthi nizintroduce. Sisikhanyi, can you just briefly introduce yourself usitshela ukuthi ubani?
Okay, ngiyabonga. Thank you very much for Lady Tuba and for having me here once again.
Yes.
Ngiyabingelela Nzimande. And greetings to the viewers. And Khanyisile Nene igama. I am a clinical psychologist by profession. Obviously that means I work with mental health.
Yeah.
I help people to improve their mental health, to understand their behaviors,
yes,
to sort out some problems and different things. So a psychologist who not only specifically deal with mental health, but there's a number of things, but I think is introduced that way for the purpose of today.
All right. Because we are dealing with the depression, yes, which is a mental health challenge. So, Babu, wekazi lapha ngekuphi ithuba lokusibingelele namhlanje ntambama.
Ngiyabonga kakhulu. Ngiphinde ngibingelele mhlawumbe ukuzethula nje. By way of work, I'm a life coach, a Christian life coach. I'm a business consultant. I am a speaker, and I'm a social entrepreneur, which means I get involved in businesses which have a high social impact. But I'm a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Ngiyamthanda uJesu nje, ngiyalishumayela ivangeli lakhe ngokukhulu futhi ngizizwa nginenhlanhla, ngafumana umusa, ngahawukelwa, ngathola leli ivangeli. Amen.
Amen.
Ngiyamthanda uJesu wami so much. Thank you so much, Nkosikazi. I guess ingene odabeni lesihlangane ngalo namhlanje ngiyathanda nje ukuthi ke ngibheke kancane lana ukuthi kuthiwane ngokwama statistics. I see here it says worldwide depression affects more than 300 million people. Oh, between 6 and 10% of the population will experience a depressive episode in any given year. Depression is also the 4th leading cause of disability worldwide, according to the World Health Organization. It is likely to become the 2nd most common disability in 2020. According to the South African Stress and Health SAH study, the prevalence of depression in South Africa is close to 10%, yet of those experiencing depression in the last year, only 8% sought help from a psychiatrist. Yeah, as many as 1 in 6 South Africans suffer from anxiety, depression, or substance abuse problems. And this does not include more serious conditions such as bipolar disorder or schizophrenia. This is according to the statistics released by the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, SADAG. By the way, to kind of say, you will know more about the statistics. Depression, but it's just like but what is it exactly?
No, I think our statistics do not I think they are showing us, you know, a true, sort of a true reflection. You know, a number of people are struggling with the depression and anxiety in our South African context, because the SASH study is a South African-based study.
Yes.
You know, because sometimes is dependent on our studies from other countries, but this is our local study, and it's really showing that depression is real in our country, and people are affected. And the sad part a few people seek usizo. And I had the pleasure of working for my master's dissertation. I actually was working on depression, and I did a study in the Kanana district, which is in the northwest. And what I was investigating was health-seeking behaviors among people. You know, we tried to look into how many people seek help once manage depression, and what are some of the factors that would lead people not to seek depression, which maybe we will come to those. But what I'm as you're speaking, you know, it saddens me to realize that many of us are struggling, but it's either a sad, and one of the reasons why abantu bengalitholi usizo was because they didn't know ukuthi they had depression. They didn't know ukuthi usizo liyatholakala. They didn't know ukuthi bebesaba stigma that is associated with mental illness. No matter what, okay, this is depression, but how are they going to treat me? How is my family system still going to support me there, and so forth, you know? So going back to what is depression, you know, depression is a mental health illness. You know, it is classified because it affects your ability to be to live a productive and healthy life. You know, so it's a mental level. You know, the World Health Organization, you know, Zodwa, you know, at one stage it defined e-health, or it said that there's no health without mental health. You know, so meaning just because we're not physically you know, sick, it doesn't mean as school. As long as there is a mental health concern, you are not holistically okay. You are not completely okay. You are not healthy. So it then pushes us to understand if I'm not okay mentally, it's still I need to seek help, because I'm not going to function at full level if I'm functioning life. Then function, then people are still going to be anyway, or you're going to lose your job, or it's going to lead to more chronic physical sicknesses, you know, such as hypertension and other stuff. So it comes back to mental health is if I may say prioritizing, you know. So depression is a mental health concern. It is defined as an affective disorder, meaning it's a disorder because emotionally functioning, it affects the way you think and the way you see and as a result, you know, you become hopeless and helpless. You know, when you become hopeless and helpless, it's very difficult for you to make you know, those bold decisions that you would usually make. But you know what? For example, if we come back to those daily affirmations that you make, saying, I'm wonderful and fearfully made, and I can do all things. You know, when you're depressed, you are so hopeless. So it sort of hits you and affects so it's an affective disorder. Others we also define it as a clinical disorder. You know, there's a number of ways we look at it, but it is an emotional problem. Those chronic symptoms of unhappiness, intense sadness, which can be prolonged. But I am saying a sadness, or just have symptoms. Symptoms of now as they affect the cognitive ability, to function as human beings, which is now the what? Our ability to concentrate and focus. Our we're becoming now forgetful. You know, that's more of a neurological symptom. So now now it's either we have hypersomnia or insomnia. You know, either you oversleeping or you cannot sleep now as well as you know, it's now these sudden changes, especially who are in depression. Because all of a sudden, I can't sleep. I sleep for 2 hours, saying the whole night. You know, it's a concern. So those things need to be telling you, maybe I am depressed. You know, maybe I need to start seeking help to understand what is going on. Why suddenly changes in my life, you know? So sometimes depression, we can also, so let's bring it back to Zodwa. It is among the manifestation is how it presents. You know, it presents clinically. You know, clinically, functioning brain, and it also affects our social functioning. It manifests some of us may withdraw from our social relationships, it's just that sudden loss of interest in things and activities that one used to enjoy. So it is a concern, it's a question mark. It should be telling us, okay, maybe this could be depression, but you know, there are other factors. It's not only depression, it could be a PTSD, it could be an anxiety disorder, it could be, but it's also there with depression.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you so much. I think that really helps us to have a better understanding as we begin our conversation. Whereas again, I have been noticing, of course, we are in Mental Health Month, October in South Africa, and you have been writing a lot about depression. I think especially addressing Baba, you know, the challenges that you have and the statistics. In your view, what is depression?
All right. Firstly, let me acknowledge our clinical psychologist as a specialist in the field, as qualified to pronounce on depression, and hasten to say that laymen like myself are not qualified to say that the next person is in depression. Especially clinical depression must be diagnosed formally. Clinical depression must be pronounced upon by someone qualified, a clinical psychologist, perhaps even your doctor. But it's a word that we all use very loosely, but clinical depression has actually got the precondition of clinical diagnosis before it can be pronounced. So mawuzwa mina ngikhuluma ngedepression ngisuke I'm blowing hot air ngoba engekho ama specialist anjengoKhanyi mase bekhona I defer to them and then I talk loosely. But to be on the safe side, we know that when there is prolonged sadness, and we know that when that sadness has become such that it affects proper functioning in a number of ways, but also we know that so it has become the kind of sadness that makes one lose total interest in life and even begin to have suicidal thoughts and say, you know what, I'm done with life. I'd much rather be dead. So in other words, Mauye Bibelin, when someone starts talking Jengo Jobe, chapter 3, and said, I regret the day I was born. I wish I'd never been born. In fact, the dead are having a better time than me here maybe I should join them. Then we say, I cishe la sekufanele sithole a clinical psychologist ozomdiagnose lo muntu. Kodwa siyakwazi ukuqala loosely sikhulume nje nge-depression singakafike kwi-clinical diagnosis, but I wanted to be very emphatic ukuthi the diagnosis itself must come from someone qualified and someone professional, and the rest of us in using the word must always acknowledge that there are professionals who will diagnose for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Maybe to start the loose definition and understanding issue teen in depression.
Okay. Just depression really, as I say, we begin to say Tina someone is depressed when they begin to be affected in their functioning. So it's more than just sadness. They are sad, yes.
Okay.
There's but that sadness is now affecting their ability to work, and people respond differently. You might find and we criticize people and we say they are wrong, only to find at the root of those things is depression. For example, Tina, as coaches who are concerned with people's ability to achieve goals in life, with people's ability to lead productive lives, umuntu depressed sihlangana naye engasathandi ukuya emsebenzini, sihlangana naye engasanawo ama goals, ese purposeless, impilo ingasenayo meaning, sihlangana naye mhlawumbe esezi-exerta kuma substances, and lama substances ese-affecta i-family life yakhe, simthole usenama drugs, omunye simthole ukuthi sek-affecta ngisho i-relationship yasekhaya, umshado uphazamisekile ngoba u-delinquent and unfaithful kakhulu, only to find ukuthi le unfaithfulness at the root of it une-depression and iphuma ngokuthi imthume ukuthi ayokwenza izinto eziningi. So as a life coach Tina sihlangana naye lapha, as a minister of the gospel sihlangana naye umuntu esethi, you know, ngiyasindwa, there's a heavy, athi ngithwele ngidinga ukuthulula, athi ngidiscouraged kakhulu, ngidiscouraged lokho ukuthi akusasebenze. So sihlangana naye evangelini umuntu esenjalo esethi ngicela ningikhulekise bazalwane, ngithwele akusenzeki lutho, bese sithi masimlandela kancane uthole at the root of it is depression. But thina sihlangana naye kuma manifestations of that root problem ye depression, sesihlangana naye kuma behaviors zakhe, sesihlangana naye kuma attitudes zakhe, sesihlangana naye sekufuneka simcounselishe ene guilt ne anxiety as such that akasa kwesinye isikhathi akasakwazi uku-enjoy impilo because ukathi ehleli nje azizwe ne-guilt emangalisayo angakwazi ukuyi-explaina. Omunye athi ngine-shame emangalisayo engakwazi nje ukuyi-explaina, but I just feel like I am such a horrible person. There is so much self-condemnation embambile. Sihlangane naye lapho, but mawusumlandelisisa kahle lo muntu, mayengalandelwa kahle ungathola kanti ukwi-depression. So thina sihlangana naye sekuvele.
All right. Okay, all right. No, they are not really mutually exclusive. Let me come back to you here. We see statistics apparently more women than men are affected by depression, with some researchers estimating that as many as 1 in every 4 women, that is 25%, will experience a depressive episode during any given year. Why are we more depressed as women?
Well, I think it's a number of factors. As this Zodwa, I think number one, biologically, as women, you know, it's not with our hormones, you know, so hormonal. We are compromised compared to men because every month there's a cycle we go through, and then changes in terms of our hormones that makes us not to be able to control our emotions. Already we are emotional human beings.
Yes,
you know, we are not, you know. Yes. And then again, there's these hormones that are always constantly working, changing, and you know, so that sort of what puts us at risk of depression. You know, and not to say just because of lower hormones, then we're going to be definitely. But again, yes, that the hormonal factor makes us vulnerable. And then for the fact ukuthi as women, socially, kunama pressures, kunama norms, kunezinto futhi esi-expected ukuthi sizenze mhlawumbe that are not so expected of men. That puts the pressure already. There's this hormonal game, and now there's this social pressure and expectation for you to be in this manner. That adds a pressure. So now you somehow compromise, biologically. Your own body image, self-esteem as a woman, there's a number of factors. So it's definitely the truth. And we would see women are more predisposed, more at risk to depression because of those biological, hormonal factors, social expectations and norms, which I think a solution would be trying to break those down and or else preparing women, making them aware of, okay, these are the norms. Either you take them or you change them, you redefine them for yourself. So that helps you to not be consumed by these to a point to go to now you are constantly living to give into the standards which are set by whoever it is, So
yeah. All right. But now with Paul, I think seen in one of your posts as well, but I think in the statistics as much as it's more women that are depressed, but we're finding statistics as suicide attempt and actually completion are more kubantu besilisa. Why do you think that's the case? Wegas?
Oh, okay. Just ngicela ukuqala kuwona ama-stats. Statistically, and this was before COVID, masibuka we-suicide, ama-stats abethi 510,000 men commit suicide globally each year. 510,000. Now, abethi lama-stats, 24 people, both genders, commit suicide a day in South Africa. Kulo 24, abethi ama-statistics, 18 of those are men. So in other words, out of 4 people that commit suicide, 3 are men, 1 is a woman. So it's 3:1. Now, lama numbers mawathatha wahlanganisa, ngake ngawathatha ngawalinganisa ngeMoses Mabhida. Ngase ngibuka ukuthi must divide Moses Mabhida, kusithatha 10 years, the number of amadoda ayibulalayo per day. Uma uyihlanganisa over 10 years, it's enough men to fill up Moses Mabhida Stadium. Stated differently, ukusukela nge-World Cup njengoba kade ikhona ukuze kuzofika namhlanje amadoda aseyibulela ngagcwalisa Moses Mabhida Stadium, idumbu nje zamadoda ayibulela. Now, looking at that and saying that is a big problem, I then went and said, but on top of that, amadoda South Africa city, a crime rate high. Abantu who are more likely to be victims of crime are amadoda, by the way, at the hands of amanye amadoda. Ngamanye amadoda masiyibeka isiyophuma isiphumela ku gender based violence, sithi amadoda 1 ayazibulala, amadoda 2 abulala amanye amadoda, amadoda 3 abulala izingane namakhosikazi. So it appears ukuthi khona inkinga ethinta amadoda ewenza amadoda abe inkinga kuwona wonke umuntu, including themselves, ngoba nalawa angazibulali physically angashaya amakhosikazi nezingane, kodwa wafica ama-lifestyles suicidal mawabheka, uthola ukuthi izinga lokuphuza as a result thina masifika kule age yethu nje o50 siyaqala diabetes, siqala hypertension, esinga-arguisha ukuthi ku-genetic mhlawumbe kwesinye isikhathi, kodwa kwesinye isikhathi i-lifestyle nje ngendlela sunga-arguisha ukuthi at a subconscious level it amounts to suicide. So sinaleyo nkinga nje. If I sometimes I look at my own family, I look at my mom. My mother has outlived my father by almost half of his life. In other words, she has lived almost twice the number of years that my father has lived. Mawubheka, and let's state it differently. Baningi ogogo bambalo omkhulu. Ayashoda nje amakhehla everywhere. Sakwazi ikhona. Ayashesha ukuhamba amakhehla. Yabona? Uyeke nje ukuthi vele even ama lifestyles zethu ngisho iziport esidlalayo iziport ezisuicidal nje. wena lo muntu ngathi une death wish so the posts that I've been making have been a particular focus on amadoda to say, gentlemen, we need to look at ourselves and say our mental health is important, because if we don't attend to it, we end up being a menace to society.
All right. Yabuza kwekazi. Ngifike indaba yokuthi baningi ogogo. Kunomkhulu, reminded of what we see in our churches all the time. Again, we want to like the way to time. Nancy challenge. What are we gonna do? Yeah, from your perspective now as a clinical psychologist, what can be done to try and assist the community and the society at large to deal with this problem?
I think that it has good point, good to know it. So we have this thing, it exists, it's real, but it comes back to our lifestyle. Yeah, we are sure it's lifestyle, but okay, why do people? Because some of them have not killed or killed themselves, right? But lifestyle is self-sabotaging from what it's describing. Yeah. You know, constantly drinking themselves to sleep, or and if they are drinking themselves to sleep because there's a pain, either or reality we face, which is something that we see on our daily experiences with our clients. So it's good to know I've come for help today because it's like I'm no longer myself. I've been trying to run away, and to a point, it's saying affect my family, affect my kids, affect my financial standing, because now since the last month. So it comes back to, so if we're going to assist, there's a number of levels I think we could see if we can change this thing, but it starts within the self. Yeah, you know, within the self. Yeah, you know. So a post or a meme, when a seed is not growing, you know, you don't fix the seed, but you fix the soil or the environment. Yes. You know, so I mean, I brought it to myself and I'm interested in that, but yes, it's the environment, but it could also be the self. What if the self is what is holding the seed to so I contradict a local, but yes, if the environment is what needs to be fixed, we need to look at the societal norms again. Okay. You know, we need to be looking at the people we are spending time with. Yeah. You know, what are they contributing to? You know, we need to be looking at the environment in terms of your home, your own family. Is the environment causing you as a man? Is it cultivating you? Is it peaceful enough? What are you contributing? So the environment, we can understand it in different ways, right? Yeah, yeah. So I guess it comes that we can change at an individual level. We can change at an interpersonal level, where we're now looking into the relationships we are in, family relationships, friendships, work relationships. And because those are the things, or people and relationships we are dependent on, you know, as human beings. So for you to be validated, validation, it's a human need. We can't say we don't want to be validated. It's a need. Yes. You know, so validation is okay, but obviously if we so validation, then it's a problem, because there's a validation, or there's a self that is bruised, the ego that needs to be not nursed, because now we need to deal with it, go back and see what happened, what is happening. You know, why do you feel the constant need to be validated every now and then? Because now if you need to be validated, the people in your life will never be good enough, because our expectations now are too much. You know, they don't know what you are expecting, and you know, it causes conflict, and the next person, you are forever draining them because you are not whole enough. So when I'm working at the level of self, it's like pushing you to become whole and complete, you know, and wholeness will really help you to become the best version of yourself, because now even when people walk away, you still know who you are, you are grounded, you are whole. Even when people criticize you, because you know who you are, it's not gonna matter, because you've already validated yourself as much. So their validation will not be as important as your validation. You know, but it comes back to, it's a number of things that we can do, you know, at different levels. Okay, I've said at an individual level, I've said at an interpersonal level, at a community level, again, you know, there's a lot of stigma that is going on. So we see people ending up killing themselves. We see people. Why? Because the stigma is so high. The stereotypes around mental health, around depression. We know, it's a social expectation. Men don't cry. Why? Are they robots? Why can they not cry? Why should they not cry? Are they robots? Which could be contributing to the level of depression and suicidality that we see amongst them, at a later stage, because they've been sort of bottling things up. It's like a vacuum. It's like, a bomb waiting to explode. So at a community level, we need to be breaking Laoma stigmas and things that we say, like Cooper Paul has been doing, he's putting it out there with social media, trying to encourage men, guys, depression, Natias affects as much as it's high in women. But what if it's high in women because they are the ones seeking help, hence getting diagnosed? The statistics are not a true reflection, because we're not seeing many men coming forward for help. As in my study, they said it was more women. Even in the study itself, it was more women who participated. So obviously the picture would say, but see, at the end of the day, community, at a policy level as well. I've recently read about on the 10th of the 10th, it was World Mental Health Day. So I came across an article, we highlight some statistics. I think it was World Statistics speaking. So the theme for this year was investing in mental health and greater access for all for mental health, right? So they were arguing even the world budget globally, if budget for mental health is only covering 2% of the population, only 2% rather, only 2% of the budget goes towards mental health. The rest goes to, physical, everything else. So if again we're going to be breaking and working on depression, then we need to be investing in mental health. Department of Health needs to prioritize looking at hospitals. How many psychologists do we have in hospitals? How many psychologists do we have? That.
Yes, I hear you. First, in wholeness, I think you as an individual, you need to be whole, because otherwise, if you're going to be looking from external forces and external validations and affirmations from other people, as much as this is lies for us to commune with other people, but it's very important when as an individual, and of course, the statistics that you are referring to, 2%, I mean, that's like, wow, it's really big. Let me go to our Facebook page and see if we've got any comments or questions. I see there, this is Nobuntu website, which the restoration of the men seems to be at the core of the demise of society. And then as well, are there enough Black male psychologists in our communities? Are there enough male counselors in Black churches or faith communities? About the counselors in our Black churches or faith communities.
Okay.
It's a question.
And look at the support structure. And this is not I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm stating a fact. Sikhulele intabeni. Ma ekhula umfana elokishini ukhulele emgwaqweni, intombazane ihleze endlini. Ma kusemakhaya ukhulele endle elusa inkomo. Right? So society has generally accepted into yokungamnaka umfana omncane ngoba akekho la endlini out there. Now we accepted this norm. Black families at least. Say normalize lento. Say normalize ngesikhathi la kwakune social fabric eyayenza ukuthi einkomeni lapho kunama structures okwazi ukukhulisa umfana. So wagcina umfana ekhuliswa ngama institutions that is embedded in society. So when the Black social fabric was destroyed, ama structures ayikhulisa umfana aphela. But saqhubeka umfana samkhipha ekseni wahamba waye emgwaqweni wabuya ntambama sanganaka ukuthi ukhuliswa ubani emgwaqweni umkhulisa ngokuthini engasekho lama structures ayeqoqa umfana amkhulisa. So what am I saying? I'm saying in my observation, generally, we are not intentional about the upbringing of a boy child. Coincidental, that is my observation. Okwesibili, ngithe mangixoxa nabanye abantu besilisa, ngathola ukuthi one of the biggest gaps esinawo as amadoda ukuthi mangixakekile akekho umuntu engimthembayo engaye ukukhuluma naye. Angiwathembe ngisho amanye amadoda, kukhona izinto esingayixoxa khona ngengiyixoxa ngoba ngizohlekwa. Okwesithathu engikutholile ukuthi uyabona ke kukhona le depression eyingozi le where you're functionally depressed. You are depressed but you are functioning very highly, which means you've still got a top job, you've still got money, you're still you are the man amongst men. You are the guy. You're in depression, but everybody else is looking up to you because they think you are the man. Now, you are the man that's causing the most trouble because everybody else is looking up to you. We are provider when Zazonke listen between hands, but you are toxic. You are toxic. Now, so those are some of the challenges that stop us then from when everybody else is looking up to you. You can't go seek help because you are the man. We're not right. So in terms of a support structure, iyafuna si rethink just generally is support here towards abantu besilisa kunganakele lutho. Hence we started, for example, #Ndodana. Number 4, which brings me to the next point. A lot of males are growing up now without their fathers. I was talking to Ukontishomkulu Wasoshange, Utishomkulu Ngumalo, and he's made an observation between boys and girls, how boys respond mabezongene boarding school. And in his observation generally, it's that boys who grow up without fathers struggle in life, generally. So umuntu wesilisa angangakhali inyembezi ngesizathu sokuthi, which is the 5th factor that I want to bring in. There's the factor of testosterone, and testosterone as a hormone makes one aggressive. So from around the age of 13, we start accumulating testosterone. Now, testosterone, kumuntu confused, is very dangerous because they start acting out their confusion. Intombazane izokhala, umfana uzoba aggressive. So, yonke le aggression oyibonayo, labafana abaningi abagcwele phansi kwebhlorho lapha abadliwunga, those are boys crying out for their fathers. But because they are not allowed to cry, they act it out in aggression. Labafana abagcwele emgwaqweni, ababamba inkunzi nabenzani, they are being aggressive, banonya, badla ama-drugs benzani, but deep down, they are crying, but they are acting it out. So kuhlangene inyembezi ezingaphakathi ezivalelwe zihlangene nehormone testosterone, it becomes explosive. Now, ngicela ukuvala ngalokho. The devil has seen our carelessness around the boy child. So, ngifuna ukuya ke manje ngiyabona isikhathi sethu siyaphela. Ngicela ukuyophendula leya question obuyibuzile kwi-topic yakho ethi, therefore, depression itself, is it clinical or is it spiritual? Masifunda lapho ngoye sisikhanyi ngayishaluza kancane psychology kancane nje ngayithi lapho ngoye. And I started becoming very interested in sasifunda nge-schizophrenia, that dissociative disorder. Abathi mabeyichaza kimina kwavuka lo muntu sisodwa waseGenesareni lo wayihlala emathuneni ngoba impawu zakhe iBhayibheli malimchaza lithi wayezilimaza. Ngathi ngiyafunda nge-schizophrenia kwathiwa umuntu one-schizophrenia uyayilimaza. Kanje uyabona lo wayezowaboshwa nangamaketango kanjalo ngaqala ngathi hawu yini psychology ichaza into ebonakalayo eBhayibhelini kodwa iBhayibheli ichaza ngenye indlela kodwa ipsychology ichaza ngenye indlela. So then I started paying attention to these things, and eventually I found ukuthi iBhayibheli alikubizi idepression, aliyibizi ngedepression, liyibiza ngeheaviness. Okwenza ke manje singakwazi ukuconnect ama-dots ukuthi oyinto eyodwa le. Uyabona ke mawuke wayibiza ngeheaviness, eBhayibhelini uvela uyithole ukusukela nje ngapha kwi-Old Testament usuyophuma kwi-New Testament. Angiqale la. U-Isaiah umprofeti, angiqale ku-Adam, sisikhanye. U-Adam lethi iBhayibheli malisichazela ngaye. Maye ichaza yena. Uthi uNkulunkulu mayimbuza Adam ukuphi? Ayisikhuluma ngendoda la. Ukuthi i-depression yokuqala siyayibona iyaqala endodeni. Uthi u-Adam ngilapha Nkosi, I'm in isolation, right? Self-isolation, which is one of the symptoms of depression. Athi Nkosi, athi bengicashile because I was afraid. Abe sethi I was afraid because I was naked. Yini la fear and shame. Angithi siyamsana sisukuthi into ze depression leso. Aqhubeka bese ethi uNkulunkulu mayisembuza athi Adam yini ubani othe unquni, in other words, who condemned you? Now if you flip that, uNkulunkulu is saying Adam, you are condemning yourself, so it is self-condemnation. Since can you will agree ukuthi uphawu lwe depression Lord. Abe sethi uNkulunkulu, have you eaten from the forbidden? In other words, are you guilty of an offense? So now we have guilt, we have shame, we have self-condemnation, we have intense fear, we have self-isolation. Those 5 things describe a classical case of depression. So ukwele sonweni ka Adam kwamfaka with depression amongst other things. By the way, le isolation yakhe was an expression of rejection that he was expecting. He was expecting to be rejected by God. And Mrs. Kanye will tell you that rejection is one of the biggest precipitating factors of depression. Now, uhambe nalo iBhayibheli, uhambe nalo bese uzuzuyofika kuJobe. uJobe ke waye with depression enzima. Ulandele uKing David. UKing David uyayichaza azisho ukuthi nje ngempela azachaze the physical manifestations of his depression. Bese ethi kuma Proverbs uSolomon eseyibonile lento athi a glad heart is medicine to the bone, but a sorrowful heart dries up the bones. So ugula ngisho ukugula uguliswa i-depression lesenhlizweni. But ke classically umprophet uIsaiah abeseveza ikhambi ku-Isaiah 61 incwadi eprofetha ngokuza kaJesu athi the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, for he has anointed me to proclaim good news. Lapha ku verse 3 athi he has given us the oil of joy for mourning and the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. Usiyaziveza ethi heaviness comes from a spirit. Abese uJesu yena self athi mayise Getsemane la sezenzeka ngempela izinto. Abesethi kubafundi bakhe athi bafowethu, I am heavy to the point of death. I am experiencing so much depression, I could just die from this depression. By the way, lethi iBhayibheli wayeconsa igazi. I did a little bit of research. Kuthiwa it is a very rare condition ukuthi umuntu angajuluka igazi, and it occurs only under the most extreme conditions of pressure. Remember Jesus in the spirit wayeseyibone yonke ijeni yakhe. So he was in depression, immense pressure, etc., etc., etc. So ngifuna ukuthi the question ethi, is it spiritual or is it clinical? There are elements of depression which are genetic, which are chemical, which are hormonal, which are psychological, but sometimes depression is spiritual. How do we know? We need the faculty of discernment, the prophetic faculty of discernment. Akuyena wonke umuntu ozothi mayibona umuntu abesethi lo unedemon asimbekeni izandla. Cha. Buka ukuthi ngisho uJesu mayizoconfide ngedepression, akatsheli bonke abantu ulanda the top, meaning in other words, depression is a matter that ought to be dealt with by leadership in the church. Stated differently, it is my humble submission that every church leader must be familiar with depression as a phenomenon. Now, you know, these days umoya ongcwele kade engilida kulento ukuthi iproblem enkulu eyenza abafundi bangakwazi ukhipha idemon leli azathi uJesu leli likhishwa by prayer and fasting. It was not the lack of prayer and fasting on the part of abafundi. It was the lack of discernment. They could not tell what kind of demon they were dealing with. In cases of depression, when depression is spiritual, we need the faculty of discernment. What is discernment? The faculty of being able to know the true nature of a thing and its source. Sekwazi ukuhlukanisa ukuthi lo uyayigulela nje. Sekwazi ukuhlukanisa ukuthi lo ufuzo. Umoya ongcwele asikhanyise, we need more discernment. Singasukela umuntu owazalwa enjalo bese sithi unedemon kanti wazalwa nje into yakubo egenetic mhlawumbe ubeyidingela ukuhamba for psychiatric help or mental help and whatever. Sile simbeka izandla, we make ourselves ridiculous. But at the same time, we need the appreciation yokuthi khona umuntu esombambezela nge-clinical psychology kanti ubedinga izandla. Kodwa sidinga ukubambisana nokusebenzisana, and we need greater discernment. That is my submission.
All right, thank you. It's a mouthful. Whereas it's submission yakho now nosisikhanye la or clinical psychologist no dikhande ngathi uyavumela sisikhanye na submission ka kamwekazi idemon izandla umkhuleko it's psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Senze njani?
No, I think it's very important to be to know, like he's pointing out that there could be a number of reasons, you know. Yeah. It could be spiritual, it could be biological, it could, you know. So as a psychologist, you know, when a person works in and they are depressed, my responsibility is for me to assess and diagnose, you know. So I sit down and I formulate, I'm taking history to see what is happening. Is this what is causing it, right? So in depression, through a manifestation, but it's clinical because of it manifests clinically, you know. But then there are it may not necessarily because by clinical stuff. So by saying depression is clinical, we're not saying clinical depression is clinically caused, you know. So, but we are saying we then sit down and look, okay, is it clinical? Is it psychological? Is it socially caused? Is it, you know? So there's a number of, you know. So if we look from a biopsychosocial, social, spiritual, cultural perspective of understanding our mental health problems, you know, then it helps us as mental health practitioners to better say, okay, this is the route so you treat an eye. Psychiatrist, the psychiatrist need to treat it with medication, or as a psychologist, as a clinical psychologist, I'm better able to just provide therapy and you'll be fine without, you know, the priest, without the you know, the psychiatrist, you know. So what I'm saying, there are a number of predisposing factors. We look at it biologically. Biologically, then we're looking at like maybe it's hereditary, you know, so it runs in the family. The depression. So it's possible, you know, the depression is genetic.
Okay.
So that is
Okay.
possible. It is possible that it runs in the family. Okay, we can't dispute that.
Yeah.
It is possible. So we look at biologically, right? And then at a social level as well. We need to see, because now we're saying that Simbona is a present and right? But what caused it? So for us to know whether it's biological, it's clinical, it's spiritual, we need to know what caused it. You know, so now we're looking at a social level. Maybe it is the rejection, you know, the absence of the father. You know, maybe it's the rejection by a partner. Maybe it's a loss of umsebenzi, the financial stress. You know, so that's it's socially related. That, you know, so then we're not gonna be giving you EPLs. We can't give you antidepressant if you know, we need to be helping you in terms of budgeting. We need to be helping you in terms of dealing with the rejection. And EPLs will not take away the rejection and the fear of rejection and the fear of failing, the fear of abandonment. You understand? So that's where now is this, what are we dealing with, land? You know, so so I've counted the biological, the spiritual, and now more at the psychological now, where, you know, because of the rejection at a social level, and because maybe biologically you were prematurely born, or maybe there was trauma during birth, those things predisposes us, but it doesn't necessarily say, yes, you will have depression. But if now there's a number of these things, and in this one human being, then it compromises them and it contributes. So now when we're treating them and when we're diagnosing and giving them coping skills, we need to take all these things into consideration. So at a psychological level, then we look into their sense of self. You know, if you're looking at a cognitive behavioral way of understanding or a cognitive perspective of understanding depression, this theory assumes that it's the way we are thinking and the way we are feeling that would lead to our behaviors, hence probably the depression. For example, if I feel and see myself as useless, where is that coming from? It's coming from learned previous experiences in childhood. Maybe there was an absent parent, and maybe your mother was highly critical. They would bash you all the time. I want my A's. Yet you can't give them A's, and they're not even supporting you. So you learn that, oh, I'm never good enough. So that's at a social level. There's nothing biological. There's nothing clinical about that, right? It's social.
Yeah.
So, and then it produces the psychological traumas, and which have been building up as an unconscious mind. So now I'm an adult, I'm in the real world, I'm experimenting, I'm exposing, I'm living life, then things will happen. People will come with bad intention, rejection will happen. It goes into the unconscious mind, it taps there, and then these things manifest, so my fear of rejection already in the unconscious mind, because there was rejection as a child, there was abandonment or whatever trauma that happened. So now when real situation, it goes and taps into that, and that will define or determine how I behave. So the cognitive therapy therapy or perspective says that, for us to understand anxiety and depression, we need to understand how is the person thinking and feeling, because that will determine how they behave. So now, if you, at an unconscious level, you constantly fear rejection, you constantly fear abandonment. For example, if you get into a relationship, you're already seeing the door, because you just don't feel you are good enough. You're just expecting people to leave and walk away anyways, right? So it's your worldview, your way of seeing yourself. You see yourself as not good enough. There's nothing biological, but it's what was constructed socially, the environment that you grew up under, that constantly taught you that you are not good enough, that constantly taught you that, so that is the thoughts and the emotions that we now need to be fixing at a psychological level, because that is what will lead to depression, because that is what will cause to, because now you anticipate people will walk away. What do? You're not gonna, you're just not gonna give 100%. Then people will not want to invest in you anyway, so they will eventually walk away. So what you fear the most now comes to pass. What you fear the most will come to pass. Then we can understand it's at a psychological level, right? But again, what if there's a spirit? We could understand and explain that at a spiritual level. So at a spiritual level, again, so I've said there's a biological, the psychological level, a social level, and then there's a spiritual level where we look into it. So there could be no biological reasons. Your childhood, yes, it was problematic, but currently you are not. There's no social stuff going on. Psychologically, you are coping. But if you are neglecting, if your worldview, your spirituality is not, if you're not nurturing that, and you don't know who you are, what God says you are, who you are, then you must likely to be victim of a social predisposing factor. You are most likely to be a victim of a psychological or precipitating factor. A precipitating factor would be what is triggering it now. But now, what if now it's because you have not been paying attention to the word of God and what it is saying to you? So when we then work with our clients and trying to diagnose, we look into what's their worldview, what do they say, what are they feeling? So I may be a born-again Christian clinical psychologist, but I'm not going to be walking around saying, okay, this is spiritual, this is what. So a client will come. So then what the purpose of this is, if you are a Christian and you need to understand, yes, there is a possibility that your depression could be a spiritual attack. If it's a spiritual attack, so maybe you are not meditating enough, maybe you are not speaking the word of God, you don't understand who you are defining yourself according to your father who left you, you are defining yourself according to your mother who was highly criticizing you, you are defining yourself according to what your teacher used to say, you never amount to anything, you are useless, how come you don't know 1 + 1? You understand? So those things are traumatic. They are in our unconscious mind. But now, as you grow, you need to be investing in yourself. You need to be you need to have a worldview that is higher than, that previously learned worldview that you are not good enough in whatsoever.
Yes,
So then maybe our depression at that level, could be a spiritual attack.
Yeah.
Or it could be, so not to say that now you have a demon,
Yeah.
but the manifestation is clinical.
Okay.
However, the roots, the causes
comes from. Okay.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
So I think that's my stand. That's where I feel then it makes it easier then for us to be treating our people, to be working and raising awareness that, guys, we can't relax. We can't be sitting and relaxing and feeling sorry for ourselves, because at the end of the day, you didn't ask your dad to leave you. You didn't ask your mother to criticize you. But those wounds, you need to nurse them.
Yes.
And yes, maybe prayer is not sufficient to deal with it, but there is a psychologist, there is a psychiatrist that can help you.
Yeah.
You understand? So understand, because these things somehow work together, and then they produce these depressive symptoms, which now will lead to a clinical presentation of depression. Yet, if you had just as they pop up, as these feelings, as you experience pain and loss, being depressed, it is normal. We all go through, those moods.
Yeah.
We all go through anxiety. It is normal. It's a normal, it is a normal experience.
Yes.
When you prepare for a test,
you gotta
be stressed. Stress is good. Anxiety is good because it motivates you to work hard.
Yes.
When we lose somebody, we're gonna be depressed. It doesn't mean you are mentally ill. It means you are experiencing loss. So you need to seek help, because if you don't seek help, then this thing will manifest into a clinical depression.
Yeah, eventually.
Yeah. So now we're seeing it in our practices as a clinical depression. We now present, but what was the root of it?
The loss.
You understand?
I hear you.
So, and then maybe if you had understood this loss, if you knew what God says about loss, and if you had found comfort in the Word of God, would you have been depressed?
Well, that's a question for the viewers who are watching us. I almost gave a personal response. Let me go to our Facebook page again and just see if we've got any questions quickly before we wrap up. Usiyabonga Ntombela is asking, which group of society is mostly susceptible to depression between the married or single, and why? Yes? Whereas, do you want to take that one? Is it singles or is it married people?
I don't have the statistical breakdown. But given that I'm a married man, I shudder to venture my opinion precisely so that I may not be depressed.
Okay, again, let me go to someone who sees people on a regular basis as a clinical psychologist. Is it singles? Is it married people?
Well, I think, let me think. Well, really, we see both. We see both.
Okay.
Because I must say, in my practice, I do see a lot of couples.
A
lot of couples. I do see a lot of couples going through depression and anxiety. And most of the time, it's really because, maybe there are many things they don't understand about their partners, personality issues. So nobody is willing to, to understand the next one, or maybe the other one has high expectation. Maybe the other one has this void that was never met in childhood, so they're expecting. So I do know that a lot of the clients that I see, and those who are single also, we're not saying that they're not. It is because of the pressure that we are experiencing as human beings. Why aren't you married at this time? Why aren't you driving this car at this age? All those things. So I think we can't really say statistically it's this group that is more vulnerable than the other. But if we're looking at the marriage group, so now it's like these guys cannot, even if they realize this is the wrong partner, maybe I played God in this whole thing, and even though I knew this is not the right partner, but I still got married because I was under pressure, because something was pushing me, because all my friends were getting married. So what's going to happen? You're obviously you feel like you are stuck. You feel like you don't have anywhere to go now. All you have to do is live with this person. So now you most likely your depression is most likely to be chronic, compared to this single group, because now they can still walk away. We can still, but now we can't be encouraging people to be getting divorced and driving that. Of course, it's them and their God, but we can only educate. But with these ones, the single ones, it's easier for them to readjust, to change lifestyles, not to say it's all hopeless for the marriage ones. Maybe not,
Because it's all good when I say.
But I mean,
All right, okay, yeah, that's actually a very interesting one in terms of singles and married people. So maybe just as a way of conclusion, let's talk about what can be done in our faith communities to try and assist abazalwane deal with this type of issues.
Okay, ngicela ukuqala la sizodwa ngicela ungivumele ukuthi masithi spiritual does not limit things to the Christian faith only. So for example, umuntu uyaba ne-heaviness kanti ucakwe umoya wamadlozi. Bese kuthiwa yikho kuze kuthiwe omunye uze kuthiwe wanolaya kangaka ungenwa idlozini, unolaya engathi uyathwasa. Those kinds of things. isiZulu is a very intuitive language. It had a very intuitive understanding of what is going on. So I'm saying kukhona umuntu oba neyinkinga kanti ngokohlelo lwakhe, and I'm not here to judge that. I'm here to explain it. Ukuthi kuyenzeka sometimes umuntu uthola ukuthi ubanjwe ilezo zinto lezo. Now, from a Christian faith perspective, which is where I can speak with a little bit more authority, which I do not derive from rank, but purely from faith. I believe that Christian leaders they have a responsibility to understand mental health. Angichazi ukuthi ngisho ngobani. Uthi uNkulunkulu mayikhuluma ku-Isaiah ekhuluma nabantwana baka-Israel, which we now know he was talking to the church. Uthi, come, let us reason together, which means God wants us to be able to use our minds effectively. Therefore, we know that whatever God wants of us, the devil will attack. So we know that sober minds, sane minds are something that God wants from us. And so there is a battle of the mind. Yikumpostoli Paul azathi mase sikholiwe kodwa ucela ukuthi ingqondo yethu iguqulweke manje, so that we can test what is the good and perfect will of God. So there is a battle of the mind which we can never underestimate in the faith. Otherwise sizogcina siyamakholwa ahamba kakhulu ngomoya kodwa sibe sihamba kancane ngolwazi nangomqondo, bese sihlulwa ama decisions simple singabi effective empilweni. So okokuqala lokho engicela ukusubmit, I think that it's a matter. Number two, I believe that depression specifically has a dimension which is the dimension of spiritual warfare. Spiritual warfare is not for baby Christians. Spiritual warfare is for matured Christians, and therefore I would advocate ukuthi singadagnosani sisodwa. Number three, I want to submit as well ukuthi even within the Christian organization and within us as leaders, we've come to acknowledge ukuthi people have different graces. For example, Barnabas wayine grace encouragement. So amongst ourselves, especially kulesikhathi esikusona la sibuya khona kwi-lockdown, we need to locate people abane grace encouragement. We need to locate people abane grace discernment, abazokwazi ukubona when the strong man of depression, when the strong man of heaviness is at work. Sikwazi ukuthi sisizane nge-deliverance kuleyo nto leyo. So those are my final submissions. Otherwise, we respect clinical psychologists, no dokotela and psychiatrists. They do an amazing work. We believe ukuthi wisdom yokwenza lo msebenzi kahle ivela kuNkulunkulu, and we pray for them ukuthi uNkulunkulu abaphe iwisdom yokwazi ukwenza kahle umsebenzi wabo ngegama lika Jesu Kristu oyinkosi nomsindisi kuze kube phakade. Amen.
Askaqedi. Your final submission that if you got clinical psychology.
in my training, I was taught, to respect, to respect this biopsychosocial spiritual perspective. So if a person comes and they feel, this is spiritual, then we take them that way. It's their worldview. How do they see it? So we here today, we're trying to understand, and I know the audience and the targets, are Christians. So I'm here, saying that yes, it can be a spiritual thing. So we can work at it at that level. But but it will take you to understand what is going on. Where did the damage go? You come from, understand, because those things can become now our prayer items. Because now, okay, it's that void, it's that rejection, it's that criticism, it's these, now we can start breaking, because these are the strongholds, that I think the Bible is, we need to be working and breaking loose from these strongholds. But you're not going to break loose from something you don't understand, and then we'll be saying, it's the devil. Well, it's the rejection. It's the rejection, it's not the devil.
Deal with it.
So deal with the rejection. So I would encourage people, as much as we are Christians, right? But we need to also not demotivate people from seeking counseling, from seeking therapy, just because, we are Christian, you should be praying about this.
Yes.
How can you pray for something that you don't understand? Because a professional assessment will tell you that, no, you're not mad. It's normal for you to go through loneliness and pain after a loss. It's okay. It's normal. We are expecting this, but this is how you deal with it. Prayer on its own is not going to fix it. You understand? So we need to move away from it. I've had clients would say, the reason why I haven't come for help for so long is because the people would say, no, I'm a weak Christian. My mother would say, no, pray. You are too young to be depressed. No, you're not too young. The enemy is not sitting just because you are young. You understand? So we need to be open-minded. We need to be we can't just be one-sided. So that's why it's not saying this is biomedical, let's go the biomedical model of diagnosing depression, but it's multi faceted, it's so we look at it from different angles. So likewise, Natic as Christian, let us not be rigid. Depression is real, depression will kill, depression will cause us not to prosper. With that John, I think 1:2 speaks up, speaks about prosperity in good health. Health. I'm not sure what's it but what I'm learning from Lapayan, if we're going to prosper in our physical health and in every area of our life, it comes with the soul. Because I think may I wish you, beloved, with as your soul prospers. So as long as our soul, our psychology is not taken care of, then we're not going to prosper. Financially, we're going to struggle, because now, as far as depression affects how we function at work, we're going to be losing work. We're going to be losing clients. We're going to be losing business. So we're not going to prosper in our parenting. We're not going to prosper in our marriages. We're not going to prosper in our friendships. You understand? So why? Because our soul is not okay. It is not 100%. So I look at myself as a tree. A tree that has a purpose, and the purpose is to be fruitful. Where do I get that? From the Bible. The Bible is teaching me that I am a tree. James 5:15 or 15:5 tells me that I am the branch and Jesus is the vine. So as a branch, I'm supposed to be what? I'm supposed to be bearing fruits. So it's also the same concept that I would see these when I'm working with people. I see them as trees that's supposed to be bearing fruits, and the fruit is not for the tree. The fruit is for the human beings that God has trusted them with. The tree produces what? Oxygen, and the oxygen is not for the tree, but it's for us human beings that God has trusted you with. So we need to take care of this tree. And we can't just sit and feel sorry for ourselves. But yes, we do sit and feel sorry for ourselves because of the stigma that's out there. So we have to break that stigma. We have to, in the Christian community, you have to pray, you have to go, because prayer on its own, without identifying, the dried leaves in this tree, we have to water these dried branches or cut out or trim out whatever is not producing the fruit. But you can't do that if we're sitting and waiting for somebody to pray for us. It doesn't necessarily mean we are demon possessed, but it means the environment needs to be watered. You need to be watered. For you to start flourishing and blossoming as you're supposed to be blossoming. goes back to the wholeness that we spoke about earlier. You know, so let us go out there, let us seek out. It's not, I've never seen a crazy person in my practice ever since I've started working. I've never seen a crazy person, but that is the one thing a person says when I ask them, so how do you feel? I was scared because the man was dancing that time. Understand? So those things we need to walk, you know, stop using such language because it discourages abantu. But then the prosperation in different areas. Understand? A tree produces its shade. Who is the shade for? It's for us. So our children, our friends can no longer come to us with, you know, because like, hey, so get this one, getting stressing, I'm saying it's too much. We need to be watered. We need to be watering ourselves. We need to allow, you know.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Wonderful. This is amazing. You know, each time we finish a show, I feel like, hey, we need another session. But I think the most important thing is the whole.
Yeah.
And for this one, you need to be whole. It's very critical. Are you saying something, Paul?
Yes. May I please, ngiyacabanga ukuthi khona 2 minutes osasele ngingakusho okuncane.
1 minute.
All right. Strongholds are false thinking patterns which keep us in bondage and keep us making the wrong counterproductive decisions forever. Now, we need counseling to right those strongholds. That said, sometimes our strongholds have got demonic forces reinforcing those strongholds. So we will right this thing, but we'll find because they need deliverance first. On the other hand, if there's deliverance only and there's false thinking patterns are not connected, those demons, their effect will always be in that person's life. We will be casting demons forever and ever and ever. So we need to find a nice balance, and that balance comes through discernment. Discernment will help us, first of all, to identify, are there spirit forces at play? What kind of forces are they? How do we get rid of them? After that, then we work with the person to correct their thinking and help them to know how to make their right decisions, how to choose life. Amen.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for that submission. Whereas it does sound to me like these things are not necessarily mutually exclusive. Yes, discernment is important. And of course, we do have to seek help because indeed there is help, there is hope, and there is healing. Thank you so much, Sis Khanyi, for your time. I really appreciate it. I know you're still dashing back to work. Now, of course, this afternoon we came to you on a hybrid format with Sis Khanyi Lagimina and also with Paul virtually. I have to thank my team that has worked hard to make sure this comes through because I just come and throw these things at them. Ubusi Kumalo, Ubusi Shabalala, executive producer, and of course my executive assistant Angel Mkiza and the whole team at Ikono, Thrive Global, and of course Ulwazi Mkwanazi for allowing us to use his amazing device to do this hybrid setup. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We will be seeing you again on Tuesday on our Woman Thrive segment. May you have a blessed afternoon. Thank you.